I remember a coach at a camp I attended saying, "You're doing the race across America, you're not going to be right for about 6 months after that." And I said, well, how hard can it be? Probably the most challenging thing that I've done on a bike was the Race Across America, which I was fortunate enough to be on a four-man team in 2015. And the goal was to win the 50-plus category. And we did that by over 200 miles against a couple teams from Brazil. 4 of us. I was the ringer from Orange County who was old enough to qualify for the age group and who could climb and time trial, it turns out. You do it in relay race fashion. So there's one person on the road at all times, and we did it without prescribed sleep breaks for the most part. So people would grab sleep whenever they could, but it seemed like you were always either riding or getting ready to ride. And the challenges of changing your cycling kit in a moving van at 60 miles an hour were new as well. So there were lots of skill sets, and you tend to forget where you put things in your van. So they try to tell you to have the most idiot-proof way of remembering things, and you had a big wire across the back of the van where you hung your kits and things where you could remember where they were and see them, because your brain does not work that well after a couple days of lost sleep. At least mine didn't. Some people, I would say probably most people, do simulated exercises where they ride all night, 24 hours. It's as much for the crew as for the riders. Personally, I don't want to ride at night any more than I ever have to in life. So I didn't do any specific training. The first time I've ridden at night was my first night at RAM. And it was pretty eerie, pretty odd. You're out there in the desert, and you are with minimal light. It's mostly the vehicle that follows you that lights the road for you. But strange things can happen at night. I remember one time the van pulling up, my follow van, and saying, "Dave, be a little careful about a mile up the road, because they thought they saw some wild dogs perched by the road." And so when a mile goes by, I am looking at the side of the road and I see these mailboxes configured in just such a way that when the light hits them, they do look a little bit like dogs, but there were no dogs. So people were already hallucinating, I think, on day 2 of this race. I was told after the race that the gal who was driving my follow car once fell asleep and 20 feet behind me and crashed into the guardrail or scraped the guardrail. That woke her up and she kept going at that point. But yeah, I didn't know that at the time, but later found out. And otherwise, it was just these little memories of people and trucks and things that just go by very quickly. And I would say I'm in agreement with just about everybody that ever does the Race Across America, which is our least favorite state was Kansas. It's flat, it's dusty, nothing but large farms, and nobody likes Kansas, and we had a headwind. You can remember the different states because whenever it changes from one topography to another, like when we went from Kansas into Missouri, or when you especially enter West Virginia, where you think most of the climbing, there's 180,000 feet of climbing during the race, the 3,000-mile race. But the steepest part of the climbing is not the Rocky Mountains, but it's actually in West Virginia. So you know it when you get into West Virginia, all of a sudden your legs have to go uphill again more than they have in the States. And we made it through lightning storms. I remember in Indiana, within 5 or 10 minutes, this is in June, so they get these summer rainstorms, and there was just black skies and lightning bolts, and I decided to take a little break in the van, but one other brave member or crazy member of our team decided to hit the road and ride for me because it's the race across America and we keep riding. But the storm was gone in 5 or 10 minutes and we just carried on. The nice thing about being off the bike every hour is you don't even have to worry about drinking while on the bike. You can drink while you're in between your pulls. And so that wasn't as huge of an issue, but I will say the quality of food across the country depends on where you are, and we had pizza night and we had pasta, and I have never had heartburn in my life, but I had it several times during Race Across America. People plan years in advance, and we had something like 17 crew members for the 4 of us riders and 3 or 4 vehicles, 1 or 2 of which became disabled across the country, so that presented its challenges. The vans would get stuck in the mud and the sand out in the desert, so we had to pull our vans out at least a couple of times, and that involves logistics with people continuing to ride when they expected to be resting and vice versa. So it presents unique challenges every time, and safety issues too. Unfortunately, you're out there with cars and trucks the entire way across the country, and people have been injured and worse in this race. So our crew did a great job keeping us safe, if not well rested. But overall, everybody was chipper at the finish, and we finished at about midnight on a Friday night, I remember, and families were there to greet everybody, and it was quite fun. I would like to do it again, potentially, but I don't think as a 4-person team. I think I would do it as an 8-person team, and the opportunity almost presented itself this year, but unfortunately I have conflicting races, so won't be able to do that, but would like to at some point.